Manhattan Bank has been serving the Gallatin Valley since 1905. Started by local farmers in order to help grow the agriculture industry, Manhattan Bank has since grown into a full-service bank serving the entire valley. With branches in Manhattan, Churchill, Three Forks, and Bozeman, you're never far from your local bank.
As banks are consolidating and changing, Manhattan Bank sets themselves apart through consistency and a small-town banking feel. Come see why we have been in the valley for well over 100 years. Stop by the new building in Bozeman, see Justin Skillman and Tyler Dosher for your business banking, and Brad Whitmer for your home loans. Go Cats.
Member FDIC.
Welcome, everybody, to the R&R Catcast, a fan-based podcast focusing on Montana State athletics. We're two dudes named Ryan from the state of Washington talking about our dear Montana State. We hope you enjoy. All right, welcome back, Bobcat fans. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the R&R Catcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Foley. He's one of your hosts, Ryan Thornburg. We are the Ryans of the R&R, the Montana State affiliate of the Big Sky Podcast Network. We are a broadcast for the fans, by the fans, and we are your first listen. We should be your first listen for Bobcat Banter. We're lucky to be sponsored by Manhattan Bank, 4 banks in the Gallatin Valley. There for you. Man, Thorny, we are back from Portland. We're ready to talk the OSU game. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. Yeah, like you said, we're back. I had a long travel weekend, or a travel day yesterday, but it feels good to be back in the swing of things. It feels good to be back on the podcast, doing our therapy here. We did record that one, our instant reaction show on Saturday night. That was kind of a little bit therapeutic. Like, I was pretty sad about it, but I felt a little bit better after talking through it on the podcast a little bit. And I'm sure we'll feel better tonight. But overall, man, I'm doing pretty good. How you doing tonight?
I'm not bad. I'm a little tired. I was pretty sleepy over the weekend. Didn't get great sleep being in a hotel room and whatnot. But my travel was pretty easy. Although I did a good deed. I had the very last row coming back on the plane, and I was like, man, I'm gonna get this. And it's not gonna be a seat. I'm gonna have an open seat next to me. The whole plane fills up, and I have an open seat, like what you want in a plane, right? And to the next row over, there's a larger guy sitting by himself, and then there was one lone guy coming down the aisle, a bigger dude, and he sits next to the guy so you got 2 large guys sitting in this small little row, and I look over and go, I know what to do. I just looked at them and I go, hey guys, I recognize this situation. You can have this one. And he goes, are you serious? I go, yeah. I mean, it was an hour flight. I could suck it up. And so even when I sat down, it was pretty crowded.
Well, that was very nice of you. Yeah, there's nothing better than on a flight when it's done loading up and your seat's next to you is open. Like, yeah, I did it. I hit the jackpot.
Yep.
But nice. Did a solid.
Yeah. I
took a long drive back from Portland. I took the long way, which was stupid, but it was like a pretty drive up the Oregon side of the Columbia River. And then got stuck in traffic forever. I made some errors in judgment on trying to find a place to eat. Ended up taking me almost 8 hours to get back home. It should have only taken like 5 or 5.5, maybe. I mean, traffic was bad, and I had to stop and eat at some point, but mistakes were made. It took too long. But I did happen to be at Buffalo Wild Wings when I saw Troy Anderson block the punt in real time against the Rams as I was watching my poor Rams collapse. Sitting there thinking like, yeah, that was Troy Anderson. Like, oh no, we're going to lose now. So it was very, as Bob Green would say, the coaching legend from Montana Tech. It's like watching your mother-in-law go off the cliff in a Cadillac. Yeah, mixed feelings in your Cadillac. That's how I had mixed feelings when that happened. But it was really cool to see Troy do that. So at least my long day of travel afforded me the opportunity to see trainers to make a play in real time. That was cool.
That was really cool. And Troy's looking ginormous.
He's a big man.
Really big. Yeah.
Getting that NFL training regiment.
How many boiled eggs is Troy Anderson eating in a day?
30 cheeseburgers and then 10 boiled eggs. Throwing it back to our
Taking it
cheeseburger
to
episode.
Marcus Ware in the eating department.
I saw that. I still think he could do 30, whether he thinks he can or not.
I don't. There's no way.
When he's
Marcus
pressed
would
to
eat
it,
30
man, if I
No
gave
way?
you like $1,000 to eat 30 cheeseburgers, come on. That
Would
one guy can eat
you
like
bet
57
that-
hot dogs. The world record
All
guy.
right,
He's a skinny guy.
Let's settle this right now. Troy Anderson or Marcus Ware, who eats more cheeseburgers?
I don't know, man. For some reason, I want to say Marcus Ware, but I imagine Troy can probably put down a ton. He's so lean. He's got so much muscle. He's gotta have a huge metabolism. I don't know. Good question.
All right. Yeah, I'd probably lean with Marcus as well. He's 30s a lot. It's ridiculous. Okay. Listener, thanks for joining us again. Again, like I said, we hope you're your first stop for Bobcat banter. If not, well, we understand. Keaton globally. I think I said that right.
I think
I
you
just
did.
pulled
That's
that out of
good,
my.
yeah.
Woo! Nice. He's doing the Bobcat Insider that comes out on Tuesdays. It's a little bit more polished version of what we are really doing here, but you don't get that fun back and forth banter that Ryan and I have talking about cheeseburgers. So thanks for joining us. We're going to talk the OSU game. We'll recap what's in our golden coolies. That's probably the first thing we're going to do, but a couple other things we'll talk about. We'll talk about the FCS poll that came out today. We'll briefly talk about the Big Sky Podcast Network poll, which is really just a crapshoot for really anything, but doesn't matter one bit. And we'll give our game recap for the OSU game, which Ryan and I were both there, if you hadn't heard that. And then we're going to preview the Eastern Washington game over here in Cheney this week, again in Eastern Washington. Ryan, I looked at buying tickets for that. It's going to be over $200 for my family to go. So may or may not happen. That's a hefty ticket price right there. Yeah, they're like the cheapest I could get was in the end zone, $40 a ticket plus $11 processing fee for each ticket.
Yeah, I mean that's what Eastern does to you every year.
Oh,
I mean you're not far away.
You
could always just drive over there and just try and buy tickets day of from somebody. Somebody's trying to unload some tickets or something.
Anyway, so we'll get into that and we'll do some buyer sales and some golden coolies if we have those.
Sounds good, man.
Typical game episode, man.
Yep.
No special guests.
No special guests this time. We were just talking before we hit record. It's kind of nice. Like having guests is good, especially for teams that we're not familiar with. I think it's better content because they can preview their own team, the fans of their team, the play-by-play announcer, whatever, better than we ever could. But it's more work for us. Our nights are longer recording. My editing nights are longer recording, making it all fit together. Here we are just starting conference play. It's exciting just to get into conference play and talk some conference football with an opponent we're all familiar with. No special guest, just standard course of action here. Let's go.
All right. Let's talk about what's in our golden coolies.
What's in your golden coolie?
Yeah, sir. I have an Oktoberfest. Sam Adams, Oktoberfest.
Woo!
Might be a little early, but I saw it at Costco. I'm like, yes, that's what I want right now. I love Sam Adams Oktoberfest. It's a good seasonal beer. I pick it up pretty much every year. Looking at the colors, it's very Oregon State colory with the big orange, but it's blue. But either way, it's good beer.
My wife and I are going to Hoptoberfest this Friday at Perry Street Brewing. And we pre-ordered these ceramic steins, like a traditional like German ceramic stein that Perry Street puts out every year. Last year they had David Hasselhoff on the a picture of David Hasselhoff on the mug. And I don't know why. It was called like something to do with a Hasselbaum or something.
Well, can you think of a more famous like German pop culture icon than David Hasselhoff? I can't.
Good point. I'm drinking. They love him over there. Citrus Mistress, an Indian pale ale brewed with grapefruit peel from Hop Valley Brewing. And I know this one because it's served at the Spokane Indians games, and it's a pretty good one. So
Indian
saw it
pale
at the store today.
pale ale at the Indians ball game.
Yep, they have a Hop Valley beer kiosk, and so Stash Panda, Bubble Stash, which I've had on this podcast before, and now Citrus Mistress.
I like
So-
the name.
Yeah, there we go.
Sounds kind of dirty for some reason.
All right.
Can't just throw the word mistress around like that. All right. That's a nice
we are
awkward
just kind of
transition.
punchy mood tonight.
Yes. Well, yeah. I'm still all right. Now that we're recording, I'm starting to get a little more bitter about the game on Saturday.
It's coming, folks. You're going to hear the full eruption of Thorny here in a little bit. Just wait until we start talking Jeff Manning. It's going to go off.
There's a preview of something Foley warned me about. I don't know what he's going to talk about, but I don't know. We'll find out. Shall we just dive into the stats? No, we got other stuff we got to talk about. We got to talk about the polls. And stuff.
Yes. So polls.
Fine.
All right. So a couple things real quick. Montana State stayed at 4. They are tied for 4 in the national FCS poll with Incarnate Word.
Incarnate Word's been just tearing it up, man.
Mm-hmm.
You think wouldn't be near as good with Cam Ward and the offensive coordinator bolting to Washington State, but somehow they're even better.
Washington State's been doing good.
Yes.
Cam Ward's
Also
been doing really good over there. Sac State's up to number 7.
Yeah, they had a good
I don't
win
know if
against
they're
Northern
up or
Iowa.
down. Did they stay the same? I can't read it.
They went
I know
up
they were
from
number 8.
8 to 7.
And in Eastern Washington, I believe they're 15 or 16. Let me click the link real quick.
Yeah, I only snapshot of the top 10 on my little.
Yeah.
You're looking at the
So
document.
Eastern Washington, they were idle last week, and they moved down a spot from 14 to 15. Eastern's a tough one, and we're going to talk about them, but they got just waxed by Florida. Not Florida. They play Florida. They played
They will
Oregon.
get waxed by Florida too.
Yeah. And so, I don't know, they're kind of in the similar position we are. Like, well, we just got our butts whooped against a Power 5 school, and now we play each other. So it'll be an interesting matchup for sure. We'll get into that. But first, we got to recap just some stuff on the OSU game. But before that, any injuries? I listened to the press conference today. Coach Vegan said pretty much they came out of there healthy. I don't know if he's telling the truth. I kind of think he's lying a little bit. I just have a sneaking suspicion there's some lingering stuff.
Where does Brent Vegan ever given you reason to believe that he's lying about anything?
Yeah, I don't know. I just think, well, I don't know. Just my gut telling me that.
Okay. Fair enough. I mean, unless Foley's correct here and Vegan is blowing smoke up all of our collective tookuses, that was probably one of the best parts of the game as we came out healthy. Allegedly.
Yeah. All right.
But that was one of the bright spots.
Okay.
We're gonna skip the Bobcat or the Big Sky Podcast Network rankings.
Yeah. I don't know.
You were so down on that. Like, what's the point? Like every time we talk about it, all you do is crap all over it. So, like, what's the point of even talking about it?
It's because
you set it up to be this. You're like, here's the stupid thing that we do. We're gonna talk about it. It's stupid. Enjoy. Like, yeah, just don't even. Let's either take it off or be nice to it.
Yeah, I think we should take it off. I think it's too biased of a poll.
It's supposed to be biased. It's different than any other poll. That's why it's fun to talk about.
All right. Well, fine. Well, you might as well tell the listeners what the rankings are.
Grizz were number 1. Weber State number 2. Montana State number 3, which I think I voted the Bobcats number 4. I put Sac State, I think, number 3 when I voted. Sac State's number 4 in the poll. Idaho remains at 5. And UC Davis is 6. NAU 7. Eastern all the way down at 8th. But like we're going to get into, how do you have any gauge in a power ranking, which is different than a poll, a power ranking, when a team has played the schedule that Eastern has played and they were idle. It was very difficult to put this together. The top 4 makes sense to me. Everything else is like, So that's where I stood.
Okay.
But there you have it. All right. Now we can talk about The beatdown in Portland in the Rose City. It's called the Rose City, right? Pretty sure.
It is called the Rose City.
68-28. The Bobcats fall to the Oregon State Beavers of the Pac-12 in Portland. Let's run down the stats here because we have to, and they're pretty ugly. 31 first downs for the Beavers, just 14 for the Bobcats. The Beavers were 10 of 12 on third down. One of those turned into a fourth down conversion. The other one turned into a missed field goal. The Bobcats were just 3 of 10, but were 2 of 2 on fourth down. So there you go. 538 yards of offense rolled up by the Beavers, which honestly, it seemed like it should have been higher than that when we were watching the game. I was like, oh, only 538? That's how it felt. But I guess they probably had hundreds of yards in return yardage that made that look different in my mind. 269 yards of offense for the Bobcats, just 101 through the air, where the Beavers were 324 on 22 of 29 passing for 11.2 yards per pass, 0 interceptions. A very good day by quarterback Chuck Nolan for the Beavers. 3 interceptions thrown by Tommy Mellott here today. Or Saturday, excuse me. 214.
You call him Chuck Nolan?
Isn't it Chuck?
It's Chance.
Chance Nolan, whatever. Chuck Chance. What's Chuck Nolan?
Like Chuck.
There's a UFC fighter with a similar name, probably what's in my head. 214 rushing yards for the Beavers, for 168 for the Cats, which is one of the positives, on 32 attempts for 5.3 yards per carry. And I believe we scored all of our touchdowns on the ground. I'm just winging that here. Okay. And then penalties, just 3 penalties on the Cats for 27 yards, 6 for 65 for the Beavers. But again, no turnovers for the Beavers, 3 interceptions for the Bobcats.
Yeah.
Oregon State somehow, even with that track meet, still ended up with a higher time of possession than the Cats, 32 minutes and 38 seconds. So there you go. There's kind of the general team stats. If fully you want to take it into the individual.
Sure. I'll have to turn back my page. Let's see
Turn back
here.
my page.
Tommy Mellott went 9 of 18 with 101 in the passing game. He had 18 rushes for 135 yards, averaging 7.5 yards a carry. So there's a bright spot right there. Well,
depends how you think
could
about
be a
it.
double-edged sword. Yeah.
That's right.
As you said, it looks like we were running a high school offense at that point. Anyways, Chambers, 9 for 35, 3 touchdowns. Sean Chambers continues to be like a bull in a china closet down on the red zone. That guy is tough.
He's a fantasy point machine. If there's a fantasy league for this, those are the guys you love. All they do is score touchdowns inside the 5-yard line.
Your starting running back, Elijah Elliott, 2 carries, 4 yards. There you go.
Whoa.
Derek Snell had himself a nice catch. He had 1 catch for 27 yards. By the way, great face mask, just like a forearm. What do they call that when the player puts the
Stiff
arm
arm.
out?
That's the word you're thinking.
Stiff arm. Golly, couldn't think of that word right
I watch
there.
football sometimes. Ryan Foley.
Yep. Cleveland Thomas had 3 catches for 24 yards. I'm not going to read most of these because we only passed for 101 yards. So, Simeon Woodard had 9 tackles. He led the team, 4 solo, 1 for a loss. And Danny Yu had 9 with 1 solo. So, I guess if there would be another bright spot, Marquis Johnson he had 5 punt returns or kickoff returns. There was no punts in this game for 190 yards. He almost had 200 yards in returns alone. In an interview, this is funny. In an interview today with Victor Flores and Alex Eshelman, they asked him about scoring the ball or scoring a touchdown because he had a 98-yard touchdown return. They're like, "Did you expect that?" He goes, "Yeah, I expect to score every play I make. Every time I touch the ball, I expect to score." That was just like, it was very forthright. It was really funny to me. But he had returns of 98, 34, and obviously that doesn't add up to 190. But that's all I put down. Those were the long ones. So you did a good job in the return game. We didn't get to see Taco Dollar, so Marquis That's definitely a step up for where we were at last year. But if you look on the flip side, Thorny, the coverage game, that's the place where Montana State needs to figure something out, man.
That third quarter was the floodgates open, man. Like they had, it's like every time we kicked the ball, either kick off or punt, it's like, you. Somebody said they had like 198 return yards in the third quarter, and I could be wrong on that. That's some stat I read on Bobcat Nation, but it felt right. I mean, they only have 100 or 201 total return yards, according to the stats here. But yeah, Anthony Gould had a 80-yard touchdown, punt return. Silas Bolden had a 80-yard kickoff return that was miraculously chased down by Blake Glessner, the fastest kicker in the country, if you're listening to the broadcast, which was pretty funny.
That was funny.
Big kudos to Blake Glessner for chasing him down. That was great. But that entire, it's just one of those games where just things just started to snowball. And, that's just uncharacteristic for the Bobcat teams we've seen the last few years, is having kind of a meltdown in all phases a little bit. I guess the offense wasn't a complete meltdown, but the passing game, I would argue, probably was. The running game was about the only thing in this entire game that worked consistently and worked for all 4 quarters. Everything else was spotty, except for maybe the kickoff return game was also pretty good. That's about it. And I don't know where to go on this. Where should we even dive into this?
Well, let's talk about the defense.
All right.
So Coach Vigen came out today in his press conference, and he was talking about how, in general, the defense needs to be more aggressive. That they thought they did a good job. It was really obvious to me that the Cats wanted to have nothing beat them over the top.
Yes.
You watch the safeties were retreating from the snap. They weren't going to give up anything over the top. And then our linebackers were just not fast enough. We couldn't match their speed on their intermediate routes. And so we gave up a lot in front or in the middle over the passing of the middle. And Chance Nolan, man, that guy, he was just stones.
I mean, sometimes that happens. You just run into a guy who just like is in the zone and can't miss.
Yeah. He was 19 of 25 for 276. And what did they go? Like some ridiculous 10 for 12 on third down?
Yes, 10 for 12.
Yeah. Yeah. And probably 4 of those were touchdowns, I would bet. So we gave up, I don't know. So the Bobcats played a mixture of zone coverage and soft man. It was killing us. We weren't able to get home with the front 4. And I think that's really what it comes down to. We weren't able to get enough pressure to put Chance Nolan off his game. And then our coverage scheme on the back end was allowing their speedy receivers to find holes because our safeties were playing too far back. And then our zone soft coverage / man coverage, you just couldn't match it, man. So I don't know. It seemed like a bad defensive plan. You kept telling me this was like Jamie Marshall's 2015 defense. You probably said that 4 or 5 times at the game.
I haven't felt that like that's the worst defensive performance I've seen from the Cats in a long, long time. And it just felt like that. It's not like this. I don't know. It was like the Cats weren't in position. They looked slow. The tackling wasn't terrible. It wasn't great, but it wasn't, that was a huge problem in those Jamie Marshall type defenses where the tackling was also bad. Literally everything was bad. But I don't know. It's just chunk play after chunk play after chunk play. That's all it was all day long. We couldn't stop them. We got them in a third down multiple times, but it didn't matter because that was another one of those hallmark of those Jamie Marshall defenses where you get them into 3rd and 12 and then give up a 15-yard pass play over the middle. Like it was the parallels were just giving me nightmares, man. And I was not having a good time. I was very grumpy until that well into the third quarter and the fourth quarter, and then the numbness takes you over, and it's like, whatever. you go through all the stages of denial by the end of the game because it's so it's so bad. But yeah, it just reminded me of that. And we had what especially reminded me of that too is I had seen flashes of that kind of stuff in the first two games that made me kind of
Yeah.
nervous. And
Yep.
Oregon State just completely exploited all the stuff that had me kind of nervous after the McNeese State and the
Mhm.
Morehead State games. And like, is this
Yep.
who we are now, or is this a blip on the radar? And that's the big question for me was this truly indicative of what the Bobcats are on defense right now under Willie Matt Garza and without basically Troy Anderson and Daniel Hardy and Chase Benson and to even lesser degree, but still a degree, Trey Webb, four guys that are gone that were huge pieces of the defense last year. Is this the new Bobcat defense, or are we better than this?
It's hard to say. It's almost as if our guys don't really know their roles quite yet. I think
could see that.
I think Troy just gave so many other guys freedom. He allowed Ty Okada to do so much more closer to the line because Troy was covering from in the back end. Also, if you think about Callahan too, Callahan more freedom to do what he was good at. And now we're asking these guys to play more coverage, and that's not what they're good at. And so I don't know if that's a scheme thing that we need to fix or adjusting some roles for some of the guys. Like, do you really want Ty Okada in coverage? I don't know. He's a really good guy. He's really good to me when he's stretching the guys sideline to sideline, and he's good at sniffing out the run. Nolan Askelson, to me, is probably our best linebacker in coverage. With our safeties bailing out, like if we were doing like a one high look or a two high look, they were just playing so far back. It was obvious they were respecting the speed from guys like Silas Bolden and Anthony Gold. He had like himself a day. Holy cow. I don't know, man. We're not aggressive. Like that's what Coach Vegan kept coming back to today. He goes, it was part our scheme, but part of it is we just aren't as aggressive as we need to be. And Coach Vegan never really is really critical. You know how even kill he is. He never really says we're that bad. But if you listen to enough Coach Vegan, you can kind of pick up when he's not pleased with something in the media. And right now, I don't think he's pretty happy with the defense.
No, well, he shouldn't be. Like there should be, as he said, like they should be owning it. And he thinks the team did that, but you still have to make steps to correct it. And to your point about Ty Okada is best when he knows where he's going. He can go somewhere 100 miles per hour, but he doesn't look like he knows where he's supposed to be right now. And that's kind of, I think, the tail of the tape for almost everybody, except for the defensive line, who's, that's a little bit more simple in some ways. But I just feel like the linebackers in the secondary aren't on the same page. They don't know their assignments yet. And like you said, maybe they just don't know their roles in this new scheme or in this new post Troy Anderson world. They don't know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And you had mentioned before we started recording, Vegan maybe criticized or pointed out there's no real vocal leaders. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. Well, you just mentioned that, we vacated this ton of talent that you just talked about. And now we're looking for guys to step up. He clearly mentioned Ty Okada and Callahan O'Reilly as guys, but there needs to be guys on the back end as well. We're talking Jeff Manning, and
Reddy Short.
Yeah, Reddy Short. I was thinking Short was his first name, and I was like, that would be a stupid first name. Feels like Manning was a better last year at being able to be that guy. Like he played more free. He's more hesitant this year. Like we need him to be more supportive in the run game. And that's what I was kind of thinking. Like go back to the beginning of the episode where you talked to me about, hey, is there any injuries? And I think he is, I said, I think Vegan might be kind of blowing some smoke there. I think Manning might have an injury. That's just totally speculation. Listener, just let it know. I have not heard anything about that. Where that comes from me is, I think it was maybe the second to last touchdown. Oregon State ran a sweep to the right, and Jeff Manning basically made a business decision when he could have tackled the guy and just gave him a little push. it was clearly not an effort thing. And I watched Manning trot back to the sideline, and Coach Vegan met him and put his hand on his shoulder. Now I'm sitting across the field, so I don't know. I couldn't see, but Coach Vegan had his hand on his shoulder pad leaning into his face and just talking to him. And I just looked at you, Thorny, and I said, man, Vegan's probably ripping him right now because there was no effort on that. And if you start watching Manning, like I went back and I watched the replay of the game, he wasn't giving effort at all on a lot of those plays. Like he would just sit there and he'd let the people do the tackling. I'm like, man, he's not even engaging in the pile. He's not he's not even jumping on the pile like most safeties would. So he's making some sort of decision to limit his contact. And so when Vegan was talking to him, I sat there and watched it for a while, and then he kind of reached for his collarbone or some sort of shoulder or something like that. It looked like he was in some sort of pain, and then he took off his helmet, and then he never came back into the game. So it's purely speculation on my part, but Jeff Manning is a guy that he needs to be more vocal. He actually said that last week in an interview, and we just need him to be more physical. But if he's hurt, then he needs to be out there, because the guys like Tyson Pottinger, did you see that hit Pottinger put on that dude like late in the game?
So was that Pottinger, or the announcer said it was Jake DiGastino?
Oh,
No,
well,
I think Pottinger's
had
number
a hit too.
20,
No.
and
Yeah,
then number
Pottinger
28.
had a hit on the sideline on Bolden,
And
DiAgostino
popped
had
the
that
ball
hit
loose,
too.
right? DiAgostino popped the ball loose. Yeah, there was a couple good hits by those guys. So, yeah, I mean, they're obviously probably not going to know the schemes, or they don't have things locked down, but they're hungry and they're playing fast. And when they're out there, they're flying around making plays. So, the safety room has to get better. I thought Reddy Short actually had a better game than he did previous games, but he still got a ways to go. I just think that Rylan Ort's going to help out that room when he comes back. Three guys, and whichever two rise to the top there, I think will be a better situation than we're in now. Because Jeff Manning kind of had this last year too. There was the South Dakota State game where he made a complete business decision to not even touch Tucker Kraft, which, let's be honest, who can blame him for that one? But I think it was a situation too where it came out that he was actually a little dinged up last year too, and it's kind of the same thing. If I remember correctly, I think that was a very similar situation where he called him out on something. It came out later that he's nursing something, and that maybe that's why he didn't. I don't know, but we'll see. But we need more out of him, because he's the senior. He played a lot of football, and he needs to be the vocal leader out there. And he needs to be putting in the effort so other guys can follow suit.
I wrote a buy or sell, Thorny, and this is going to be a tough one for you. Buy or sell, our defense is in trouble.
I'm going to sell that. I think it's too small of a sample size, but, man, it's making me nervous.
See, I would buy it. I think the writing's kind of on the wall, unless there is that kind of leadership that starts to step up. And my second buy or sell then was buy or sell Willie Mack.
I will buy it, I guess, for the same exact reason, where the sample size is too small. I can't sell a guy 3 games into his play calling career. I'm
going to sell him.
You're selling the defense, and
now
you're selling our defensive coordinator after 3 games, one of them against a team that very well could be a top 25 FBS team in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's an emotional like sell. Like,
sure.
I totally could eat my shorts on this later on. Who knows? But haven't been impressed, man. I want us to be more aggressive. I kept wondering during the game, why aren't we sending more pressure? Like, what did we have to lose at that point? And I don't know. Our defense is a little bit. It's in trouble, man. I think guys just need to know their roles a little bit better. Like, I don't know. I thought we would have had this figured out. I thought that would have been an emphasis coming into the season. Okay, Troy's gone. Like, we mentioned that. Like, we're not going to try to replace Troy, but how do we fill those roles? And I don't know if we are, to the best of our ability.
That kind of begs the question then about this entire game in general. How much emphasis or how much stock do you put in this game, this Oregon State game? Because I thought we looked
not
better
a
against
lot.
Morehead State than we did against McNeese State. And that's obviously because we have better athletes, but I thought we looked better assignment and scheme sound and all, like in every way you could look better. And then we get boat raced by Oregon State. So how much stock do you place in a Pac-12 team that, Oregon State, by all accounts, is looking like they're going to be a pretty good team this year?
I think, like I said, I don't think you put a lot in it, but it did expose some tendencies that you mentioned already. There's those passes over the middle that we were seeing shades of on Morehead State and McNeese State that, man, they just killed us on that kind of stuff. So I think the Oregon State, like, put the score off the scoreboard. I think they exposed some of our weaknesses in our program right now.
Sure. The real question is, can any other FCS team match what Oregon State was able to do? Like, that is by far one of the best offensive lines I think I've seen the Bobcats play in the last few years. Those guys are legit. We did blitz probably more than you think. It didn't look like it because they picked up the blitzes like nothing happened. There was one play, I think it was Nolan Askelson blitzed. He got put on his butt by an offensive lineman, straight just knocked him on his tush. Like, he just ran and just got popped and just fell straight on his butt. Like, they were good, man. They were big, strong, and they were ready for anything we threw at them. We never made Nolan uncomfortable, but I think that was a big part of the problem right there, is that we just couldn't get to the quarterback. We never made him uncomfortable in any circumstance. We did flush him out of the pocket a few times, but we weren't pursuing him when we did. There wasn't that like crazy Daniel Hardy coming at you like a Tasmanian devil pursuit. In fact, I remember seeing Brody Grebe chase a couple times, and he just didn't look fast. I don't know if Brody Grebe's put on too much weight to lose some of that speed, and now he's a little too bulky, but he did not look very quick out there. So has he lost a step by bulking up to like 250 or whatever he's at?
He does look pretty tight in his uniform. Let's put it that way. I do want to get to like a thought that I had about this game. I'm going to kind of move off the defense, and I want to go into kind of like the overarching plays of this game. Montana State, I thought in the first quarter, did pretty good. Like, for the first, let me turn back to my page real quick. So we had 7 points in the first quarter. They had 7 points in the first quarter. But then if you look at the second quarter, we scored 7. They scored 27. And that came largely in part to back-to-back turnovers from Tommy Mellott. So 2 interceptions back-to-back. One was a one-play interception. And that was, I think, and that was the one I criticized him the most of, not looking off the safety. And I heard some other people say today that the safety just played a good look. But, honestly, if you're playing the Bobcats right now, you should play a too high look against us and squeeze the safeties against the outside, because you're going to force Tommy Mellott to go on inside routes. And that would be good defense against us, because we haven't had any kind of semblance of an over the middle passing game. So I don't know if that was a too high look against us, but the safety read Tommy, because Tommy just kind of positioned his body. He hiked the ball, canted to the right, was just staring down. I forget who it was over there.
Marquis Johnson.
Anyways, yeah. And he made a good play on it. And then the second drive, we did another interception, and it just snowballed right there. So that was right before half. And then coming out of half, we had terrible special teams coverage, and all of a sudden big plays again just took the momentum out of anything that the Bobcats were doing. And we were moving the ball. I thought the offensive line had good push, and we were running pretty much the Tommy show back there, but we were at least moving the ball. Yeah. But those big plays just sandwiched right in the middle of the game just really took anything that Montana State had and flushed it down the drain.
Yeah, let's go back to that first half. Let's kind of review the series of events, because I don't think the Bobcat offense had very many plays in that first half. And I think it was a circumstance of a couple things. So they scored to go up 21-7, I believe, after another touchdown drive. They were moving the ball at will at that point. But yeah, they scored. Was one of those from an interception? I can't remember. I can't remember the sequence of events.
Well, are you asking me to pull up the game drives?
Yeah, we
Because
probably should.
I couldn't.
But it doesn't. It doesn't really matter the order. It was one way or the other. Either Tommy threw an interception and then they scored. It was like the one play, like you said, the one play drive where he threw an interception on the first play of the drive, and then Oregon State scored, and then Marquis Johnson returns a kickoff for a touchdown. So the defense got no break between those two
right.
incidents. Like there were one was after another. It doesn't matter which one was which. The point is the defense had zero break, and that I think was one of the things that kind of broke the back of the defense a little bit. Like they never got off the field in that, especially in that second quarter.
Yeah.
They just couldn't because we had Malott threw back-to-back interceptions, and we had the special teams touchdown, which is great, but then the defense is right back on the field, and it tested our depth real well. But yeah, those are big plays, and then kind of the dam broke in third quarter. the Beavers, damn, that's funny. Yeah, with the coverage, the kick coverage, just blew it wide open and set up Oregon State with a short field, which is the last thing that we needed to do. Like you said, the offense was moving the ball. If we could have sustained drives, not turned the ball over 3 times, I mean, it could have been a different outcome. It could have been at least a competitive outcome. The game plan, I don't think, was terrible necessarily. Looking back on it, 3 turnovers and terrible special teams coverage in the third quarter will, kill any game plan.
I wasn't expecting us to win, but I was probably expecting us to lose probably by 20 to 15, some 17, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
With a 10% chance of winning that game.
I mean, we we scored more than I thought we would, but we gave up way more than I thought we would. And that's why coming out of this offensively, considering we had no running backs in particular, I'm not too concerned. Passing game has to be better. You can't be throwing 3 interceptions. You can't throw for 101 yards on 5.6 yards per completion for 50% completion, and a fifth of your passes are interceptions. That's not going to win very many football games. But man, that's terrible math. A sixth of your pass attempts for interceptions. Anyway, it's not going to win any football games, man. We're going to need more out of the passing game. But we were able to run the ball. We were able to push around their defensive line, I thought, in the run game. And we had them confused all game long. And who's going to get the ball? Was it going to be an end around? Was it going to be Tommy Malott on an end around and then Tommy Malott flipping a screen pass to Cleveland Thomas? I thought it was creative considering we had no running backs. We were able to run for 168 yards, 5.3 yards per carry against a Pac-12 defense with basically no running back that we apparently want to use in any running situation. That was promising for me. So there's one of the silver linings for the game. Is our running game, I think, will be pretty darn good. Our offensive line will be pretty darn good in run blocking. Pass blocking to be determined.
Yeah. That's surprising because we all thought that the offensive line might be one of the weak points, but they're proving to be
they're coming together,
one of the strong points.
Better every week, I think.
My biggest concerns, kind of wrapping this up on the Oregon State. I don't know if you want to move on, but
I do.
Biggest concerns is for me defense as a whole, not necessarily defensive line. I shouldn't say defensive as a whole or secondary. And I thought the secondary. I thought I was on this podcast saying we have a great secondary, probably the best secondary in the league. I don't know if we do. I might have been dead wrong on that. It just seems like they were just kind of lackluster. Vegan called them out without calling them out today. And then special teams. We got to get special teams fixed, man. Maybe not on the offensive side, but our coverage was terrible. We gave up almost 200 yards in kick returns. It was terrible. Absolutely terrible.
I remember on the one they returned for a touchdown, I was yelling at Bryce Layton for the way he punted that ball. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I was like, you do a 4-second rollout, and then you line drive it down the field like that. And of course, the guy takes it back to the house. I'm like, it's I don't understand. Sometimes he just doesn't put any hang time on his balls. He's wildly inconsistent. He's got such a huge leg, and so far he had been looking much better this year. But then he just goes and does that. He just line drives a kick down the field right to I don't know. that doesn't help the coverage team when you outkick the coverage, the classic expression, in the ugliest way possible too. But yeah, that's something we hadn't seen Bobcats struggle in that department like that in a long time. So that was a concern too. That can be cleaned up, I think, much more easier than the other stuff. And the speed that Oregon State has, I don't think we'll see quite that speed from anyone else in the Big Sky Conference, at least, but big problem.
In closing thoughts on Oregon State, Thorny?
I'm hoping this is a game that you can just crumple up, throw in the garbage can, move on to conference play, fresh slate, get some things cleaned up. But unfortunately, we just kind of have a hard first opponent in the conference. It's not a get right game. It's a not a must win, but something that will certainly, another loss against an Eastern Washington 2 in a row could completely set the Bobcats into a tailspin. So that's my only closing thought on that.
Question for you. I just thought about this. Would you rather have the Montana State situation right now where we're having some question marks, or would you rather be in the Grizzlies position where they just finished their OC schedule pretty much just dominant throughout?
I mean, you had to pick the Grizz here. It's like, okay. You want to be good in every game you play. You want to beat the crap out of everybody. Now, I
think only thing really matters, man, is if you get to the playoffs and how you're playing in the playoffs.
Yeah. No, there's precedent at Montana State. We got smoked by Texas Tech in 2019. We lost in North Dakota in the middle of the season. Everyone's like, the season's over. And then we somehow roll into the playoffs and win a playoff game.
Yeah.
A lot can change between the first 2, 3, 4 games of the season, and by the time the end of the season rolls around, and if you do lose a game like Eastern Washington, you want it to happen in the beginning of the season.
It's a good point. So let's get into that game.
Yeah, we can go ahead and get into that. So Eastern Washington, I can't get a read on them right now.
It's hard.
It's hard.
2 games, and then they got they smoked Eastern Tennessee State, who is an 0-3 program. They didn't smoke them, to be honest with you.
And it
was actually
Tennessee
pretty good. Well, whatever. So, yeah, I combined Eastern and Tennessee State there. So there it is. They had a win 36-29 over Tennessee State. And I mean, the talking point on that was, okay, Eric Berrier, he's not there anymore. Gunnar Talkington, a 6-year senior, a guy who played in a national championship game win.
But, man, Tennessee State has, like you said, they're 0-3 now. They scored 3 points in their next game and then 6 points in their FBS game against Middle Tennessee State, which is usually a pretty middling, not very good FBS squad. So they've scored a combined 9 points in their next 2 games, and they hung 29 on Eastern Washington in that game. And, the stats in that game, I wish I had it up there, but the running back for Tennessee State ran for 207 yards or something like that. Tennessee State ran all over them. They turned the ball over 3 times. And I think Tennessee State may have been able to win that game if they wouldn't have turned the ball over. I think they fumbled the ball 6 times and lost 3 of them. And I watched the highlights of that, man. Tennessee State looked completely confused on defense. It was one of those situations, kind of like Oregon State a little bit, but even much, much worse. Gunnar Talkington just sat there and just found a guy that was open, so open that it looked like a blown coverage. And I don't think the Cats will be quite that bad on the blown coverage aspect of it, but they both looked pretty not very good in that game. I mean, Tennessee State actually outgained Eastern Washington 547 to 474 in yardage. Eastern could not stop Tennessee State minus the fumbles, and that's what it came down to, and that's why they won by 7 points. I think Tennessee State threw an interception, trying to tie the game up in the last couple minutes.
Yeah, I watched that game. It was an offensive kind of game where the defense didn't really show up on both sides of the ball. Gunnar Talkington had the newness to him. He can't be EB3. I mean, a lot of what EB3 did, the Eagles, not scheduled, but crafted their offense around him, as you would any of your star players. This is going to be a good test for him. this will be a good test for our defensive line. I have like a good feeling that our defensive line will be able to pressure him a lot more than what we saw at Oregon State. Like you said, that Oregon State offensive line was an elite offensive line.
They're very good.
He has some pretty good receivers. I mean, we can't go without saying Freddie Robertson. I'm sorry.
I think.
Roberson. There it is. I can't read my own handwriting. He's probably one of the best in the Big Sky. He's a junior. He's one of those 6'2" guys. And Efton Chisholm, the third, he's their speed guy. He's their
he's their best receiver. But yeah, they still got two of the best receivers in the Big Sky.
Yeah,
as always.
That's what Eastern does. Eastern, that's kind of their identity. They don't deviate from that. So we'll see. To me, I think this rests more on our offense. What do you think, Ryan? Like, is that the matchup you're looking at?
Honestly, I'm more looking at our defense here. I think the offense will be able to do what they want in this game. I think we'll be able to run the ball, whether or not we have any healthy running backs or not, just from what I've seen from Eastern Washington and what I've seen the Bobcats accomplish without a running back, because now we've basically had 2 full games where we've had to use Elijah Elliott as the only running back, and he's gotten 6 combined carries. So it's clear that he's not going to be a factor in the game plan. So I really liked what I saw in creativity a little bit. I liked the Chambers and Malott in the backfield at the same time. We got speed at the wide receiver to keep defenses honest as we test the edges, and then we hit them up the middle with a 6'3", 240-pound quarterback who can run faster than pretty much any linebacker in the conference. It's like, I don't know. I'm feeling good that we're going to be able to move the ball. If we can take care of the ball, I think the offense is going to score a decent amount of points in this game. I don't know how much we can slow down Eastern's passing attack. I think we'll get to the quarterback more than we did against Oregon State, but is it going to be enough to cause some errant throws, to cause some incompletions, or is it just going to be flushing him out of the pocket and he scrambles for 8 yards?
That's the tough one. So that's always we're tracking the receivers. That's where Eastern Washington has made their hay against us in years past. I think back to the Prukop era, and man, how many times did I watch? Who was it during the Prukop? Was it EB3 back then? Still,
no, it was Vernon Adams.
Yeah, Vernon Adams. There it is. Yeah,
big play VA.
So big play VA. Aaron Best has such a good record. He's 47-17 over 5 seasons. And we're playing on the red turf again. Man, I want to harp on that, but because that's old news, old Ryan Foley news. We all know how much I hate playing at Eastern Washington. So
the other thing that makes me optimistic, I guess, maybe the only thing that makes me optimistic on the defensive side, Eastern has not found a running game yet. They were not able to find it against Tennessee State. They hardly ran the ball at all. I think Gunnar Talkington was the leading rusher with 60 yards, and they got nothing going against the Ducks. They ended up with 100 rushing yards, but 22 of that was by Gunnar Talkington. And the other guy was Micah Smith, who had 7 carries for 27 yards. They rushed for 3.6 yards per carry, and Gunnar Talkington had a 22-yarder that was basically 25% of those yards. They haven't found a rushing game, and I don't know if they can't get the running game going against the Cats. I mean, sure, they'll be able to pass. They'll get the ball moving through the air a little bit, but if we can start pinning our ears back a little bit more, we might be able to get to the quarterback a little bit more if there's no threat of a running game. So that's a thought in the plus column for the Cats on defense. I do think it'll be a high scoring game. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But if I have more faith in the Bobcat defense to shut down Eastern Washington's, or at least hold them enough to win, than I do in Eastern Washington's defense to slow down the crazy rushing attack we got going right now. But that could be me being a fan right there. Be seeing that completely wrong.
I don't have much more to say on the Eastern game. I think you're right, Ryan. And it's a big game for us because I'm looking at our schedule after that, and I can probably pencil in 4 more wins and a couple losses in there. I would say, so that would probably put us at 6 right now. So if we're toying with wins, if worst case scenario, if we could only get 4 more wins after this game, if we lose, that would only put us at 6 wins, and that's a bubble right there. I expect Montana State to make the playoffs, but in order to do so, we need 7 wins, and so that would include a win against either Montana, Weber State, and UC Davis, or Eastern Washington. So we got to win one of those games. And honestly, if we don't win against Eastern, UC Davis, Weber, or Montana, do we really belong in the playoffs this year? I'm not sure.
Don't.
Yeah. So, and that's not a conversation I was thinking we would be having, but that's kind of just the long and short of it. So, any bold predictions for this game?
Sure, why not? Tommy Mellott, 250 yards through the air. 3 touchdowns.
Who? Buy or sell Mellott as a passer?
Sell it right now. I don't love it, man. He hasn't shown me anything that he can do besides throw those fade balls up the sideline.
Yep. Play too high on Tommy, put those safeties out against press the edges, press the sidelines, and you're going to force him into something he doesn't want to do. I'm going to sell Mellott as a passer as well. He, like you said, he just hasn't proven it. So I hope he gets there. That whole thing online, the whole Prukop versus Mellott thing, just quickly, Prukop was a way better passer than Mellott.
Yeah, I think people are misremembering how good he was. Like, I know, yes. So somebody had some valid points about Prukop had a lot of his numbers in garbage time when they were down by 3 scores, and then he tried to make him come back. And sometimes he almost did lead them to a comeback. But he could throw a lot more balls. So he had a lot more velocity on his balls. He had a way bigger arm. He was more comfortable in the pocket. He could keep his eyes downfield while he was scrambling in the pocket. He didn't take off. So, like, the first sign of trouble, like Prukop was a peak. Prukop was miles ahead of where Tommy Mellott is now throwing the ball.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's not even close. And I love Tommy Mellott. And I'm not saying I'd even take Prukop over Mellott because I think Mellott has a lot of intangibles that Prukop didn't. But if you're just talking to a guy you want slinging the ball, it's like Prukop is a way better thrower of the football.
I got my buy or sell or bold prediction. I think Jeff Manning is going to have his first interception.
Oh, that is pretty bold. if Blake Glessner stones Glessner, then Jeff Manning is stone hands Manning. Because he's had some go right into his hands.
Oh, man. Eastern is such a weird place to play. It's like typically windy out there, no matter what. And it comes down to like kicking. Like it's, oh man, if how confident are you if we have to kick a 42-yard field goal to win?
I'm pretty confident in that. I feel pretty good about that. I mean, if we're in that situation, I'm feeling good that we're that close. Like I'm confident in Glessner to hit a crucial field goal.
Man, I've lost kind of confidence in that guy. I want to be confident in him, but he's going to have to earn it back for me. And he's probably a nice kid. I met his parents one day. They're nice folk, but hey, man, we're a fan podcast. We can say what we want. It is.
At the end of the day, it's always a fine line of how much you want to be critical of a player, but they're the Division I athletes. That's kind of what you sign up for in some ways. I think we're pretty mild in our criticism of people on here. We're probably much worse offline. We try and keep it pretty family friendly on here. I think we've done about as bad as we're ever going to do to Jeff Manning tonight. It's pretty mild.
Yeah, he needs to step up, though. That's for sure. All right, Thorny. I think that's all I have, buddy. I had a week buy or sell list today, and I do have one for you. One more. Buy or sell. A coach will be dismissed or fired before season's end.
From the Bobcats?
Yeah.
They'll sell that hard. No one's getting canned in the middle of the season.
I was kind of thinking Willie Mack might be, but I'm
You are so down on
wrote
him
that
after
que-
3 games. He's not going to be fired in the middle of the season. I mean, if Willie Mack Garza is fired, it's because we lost like 4 games in a row by giving up 50 points a game. And the season's over
happen,
anyway.
Man. Could happen. Not like
will not happen.
It could happen.
I'll bet you.
All right.
Bet you some money. I did want to say this, and you never let me have a chance to say it at the end here. You were talking about how it's kind of a must win for the Cats. It's a bigger must win for the Eagles, and that's what concerns me the most on this Eagle. If you're looking at the Eagles schedule, like they got us, and then they go to Florida. So at best they're 2-4, and then they go to Weber State, and then they play Sac State. Like they need to beat Montana State to even like. I mean, I asked Kyler Neal of the Eagle Power Hour, are the Eagles going to be out of playoff contention by like week 7? Because they're going to lose to Oregon and Florida, Montana State, Weber State, and Sac State. Like if they need to win 2 of those.
Yeah, it's brutal.
It's brutal, man. So this is a huge game for them. This is their first game back. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. I don't think we mentioned that anywhere on the podcast yet. They had a bye week. So they've been sitting there having all this time to figure out exactly what they're going to do against the Bobcats. Now, I still feel like teams aren't going to know how to attack our offense because it's been different game plan every single. Like, how do you attack an offense that doesn't have a running back but still is running the ball and still has the threat of throwing the ball? I wouldn't want to try and scheme up the Bobcats right now. As weird of an offense as it looks, it's been effective, and it's caught every defense we've played off guard pretty badly. And honestly, like Oregon State had some serious speed on defense. Tommy Mellott turned some of those 9, 10, 11-yard runs against Oregon State into 40, 50-yard runs against Eastern Washington. So, yeah, it's a must-win for Eastern, man. It's a huge game for them. They're going to be fired up. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for it. I'm still liking the Bobcats in this one. We'll see. Both teams are going to really see where they are. They both have had really weird out-of-conference schedules right now. And that's my final thoughts on the Bobcats going back to Cheney for like the 13th time in the last 14 times we played them. I don't know, something like that.
Feels like that.
Feels like it. Sick of it. I hope you go. Hope you're there. But like we said after Portland, man, like we're tired of going to these games together, and we just witnessed blowouts. Seems to be kind of what we do.
Yeah,
it's like we make these big travel plans. We do these big events, spend this money, and then we like watch the Bobcats get smoked on the road.
Such typical Bobcat fashion too.
Yeah.
Like when we lose, we go down in flames, man. We really do.
It's Bobcat style at this point. I hate it.
It's what we do.
I hate it. So I'd feel better.
All right, let's get out of here.
Losing to Eastern, if we lose by like 49-44, and like we're going for it, and we like fail a touchdown conversion in the last second. Like I would feel better about that. Like this, just we don't even get that in Bobcat Nation.
Nope.
So,
alrighty, basketball or football, man. All right.
Thanks for listening. Not a fun game to recap, but hey, the season's just starting. Conference play is just starting. Lots to be optimistic about. Let's turn it around. Again, thanks for listening. You can find us on the web, rrcatcast.com. You can always find us on Twitter at rrcatcast. You can find us on Instagram at rrcatcast. Shout out to Foley, who's doing a phenomenal job of running the Instagram account at the moment. Thanks again to Manhattan Bank for being our new sponsor for the 2022-2023 athletic year. We appreciate that. You guys should check them out. They do good business down in the Gallatin Valley. And Foley, let's get out of here. Go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.